Sports Network.
And Oregon is going to play in the national championship game.
Welcome to Duck Insider.
Man, it feels great to be a Duck.
Give it to me, baby. My house. I'm taking it there.
Their competitors, they'll want to put the O on.
Three, got it!
We're going to compete to a standard every day.
The Oregon standard.
Rebound. That's been in. 1 point more to go.
The opportunity to play, put Oregon on your chest, should mean a great deal to you.
Unloads on one into left field, back toward the wall. Gone!
This program is staged to compete and to win championships.
Oregon wins!
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Better banking, local solutions. Live from the Country Financial Studio, let's talk Oregon athletics.
We've got a lot of women's basketball preview coming up tonight, 7 o'clock against Washington. It's Ducks, it's Huskies. This is what it's all about. Tough men's basketball game last night. Don't worry, it's going to be better. We're going to recap it. We're going to preview that Arizona game coming up, which is a big matchup for the Ducks. I know that yesterday, the day before that, I spent a lot of time talking about how this is a big weekend for Oregon men's basketball. I thought that even if the Ducks split, they'd be in a good spot heading into next week on the road in Pac-12 conference action. Even after what was, we all know, a tough game last night, that's still true. It's still the case for Oregon men's basketball, with potentially a big win over Arizona. Now, that's a big if. I know that. I'm not going to tell you otherwise. This is going to be a big-time bounce back that the Ducks, quite frankly, have to get. We know that. That's what it's going to take. Now, Oregon, fortunately, knows what it's like to bounce back because they just had to do it recently. A tough loss on the road in Boulder. Oregon responded with a big win over Utah, who was undefeated in Pac-12 conference play prior to the Ducks handing them their first loss this past weekend. So all that in mind, the Ducks need to bounce back. It was a tough outing against a pretty good Arizona State team. We're going to talk men's basketball coming up. Also women's basketball, some big games against those Washington schools, some of the notes on that matchup. It is Pride Night tonight, the Be Oregon night at Oregon women's basketball for that 7 o'clock tip-off at Matthew Knight Arena. Be Oregon night. So if you got that Be Oregon shirt, time to bust it out and bring it out to Matthew Knight Arena here this evening when the Ducks take on the Dogs. Also, just real quick, bigger than just one sport around Oregon athletics. You've heard us in the past discuss this, and it gets brought up around the industry, and Rob Mullins always talks about it as well. The Director's Cup. It's a measure of overall success in an athletic department. So basically there's a point system that depending on where your various sports finish, there are points awarded to you. And so the Director's Cup, after the fall season, where the Ducks only have a handful of sports competing, Oregon's actually 15th in the Director's Cup following fall sports. So that includes, of course, cross country, football, women's soccer, and women's volleyball. Ducks in a pretty good spot. 15th in the Director's Cup after the fall slate and then the winter and the spring, where honestly, the majority of sports are played in the winter and the spring. We'll have final Director's Cup standings. But the Ducks, I think it's worth mentioning again, and we've talked about this before, but I think it's worth mentioning again because it gives you some perspective and context. Oregon actually is at a little bit of a disadvantage in the Director's Cup because there are only 19 sponsored sports that count toward the Director's Cup standings. And in fact, athletic departments that have, say, 28 sports, well, only their best 20 finishes count toward the Director's Cup standings. So for a program like Oregon, it's actually a little bit of a detriment to the Ducks to have a smaller athletic department because every sport counts, and then there's still even one group of points, that 20th potential sport that the Ducks don't have. Kind of interesting, the way that it works, and the fact that the Ducks are in some ways boxing above their weight class, again reflected being 15th after fall sports. Women's basketball tonight. So why does this matter? Well, here's the Pac-12 as it stacks up currently. Stanford's 4-0, Utah's 4-1, Arizona's 4-1, and Colorado is 4-1. Colorado just beat Utah. Utah was the number 8 team in the country, and Colorado got them. 77-67. Colorado, pretty good squad. Then UCLA, also a top 10 team in the rankings. They're 14-2 overall. UCLA sitting at 3-1. The number 21 Ducks are 3-2. And you look at that and you go, wow, Oregon is, on the women's side, sitting in 6th place in the conference. Feels a lot different than the Oregon men that are actually sitting in 6th place in the conference. More on that coming up. But for the Oregon women, 3-2, Oregon State 2-3, USC 1-3, Washington State, Cal, Washington all 1-3, and then Arizona State 0-7 after they just lost to Oregon State. So the women are in a great spot heading into this weekend, taking on Washington State, who's 1-3, and Washington, who's 1-3. But that's on paper, all right? Washington's a better team than they've been in years past. They're 9-5 overall. They're coming off a 14-point loss to Washington State. And then Washington State, although 1-3 in conference, they're 11-4 overall. Listen to these overall records in Pac-12 women's basketball right now. Stanford 16-1, Utah 14-1, Arizona 14-2, Colorado 13-3, UCLA 14-2, Oregon 12-4, Oregon State 10-6, USC 11-4, Washington State 11-4, Cal 10-5, Washington 9-5, Arizona State 7-9. There is one team in Pac-12 women's basketball that does not have a winning overall record. That's a big deal. And 7 of the losses, Ryan Milano just said this directing the show today, 7 of the losses for Arizona State are in conference games. And, well, the conference is pretty darn good, isn't it? So why does that matter? Well, certainly one of the big notes for the Ducks this year. They're 11-0 this season against unranked opponents, but they're 1-4 against ranked opponents, the Ducks are. I think that's certainly a measuring stick, right? Of the Ducks have not yet gotten over that hump against a really, really good team, at least for the most part. They did beat Arkansas. They're 1-4 against ranked teams. But the Ducks have a scoring margin of plus 32 against unranked teams, but a negative 6.4 margin against ranked teams this year. That includes a 7-point win over number 17 Arkansas back on December 20th. Philippina Shea, though, has been great recently. This has been one of the coolest storylines of the year. Philly Shea combined for 113 rebounds over her past 8 games, registering at least 10 in every game. Since December 15th, Shea has the 3rd most rebounds of any D1 player over that time span. The only players with more are from BYU and LSU, and Philly's actually hot on their heels. Lauren Gustin has 132 for BYU, and Angel Reese has 118 for LSU. Philly Shea has been a force inside rebounding the basketball, and I think it's been one of the coolest storylines to watch over the course of this year. Been kind of a game changer, an X factor for the Ducks. Oregon guard Tina Paopao, she has been scoring at an interesting clip lately. Listen to this. When Paopao scores 15 points or fewer, Oregon is 11-0 this season. When she scores 17 points or more, Oregon is 1-4. Isn't that weird? You'd think, like, well, when Tahina scores, the Ducks are winning a lot of games. Well, actually, when Paopao scores 15 points or fewer, Oregon's 11-0, and when she scores 17 points or more, Oregon is 1-4. Now, I think it's interesting. Remember that Oregon is 11-0 against unranked opponents, 1-4 against ranked opponents. Those are mirror images, those two statistics. Not exactly the exact games, but I think it tells you that when the Ducks are going against a ranked team, maybe Tina Paopao is asked to do a little bit more. But she's so good at distributing the basketball, and the Ducks have been so good at balancing their scoring that she hasn't needed to score at a super high clip. I thought that was a really interesting note coming from the Pac-12's research team this week. And Washington is playing just their 2nd true road game of the season tonight. How about that? No team in Division I women's basketball prior to tonight has played fewer true road games than Washington. So they're not used to it. So the crowd at Matthew Knight Arena could be a real difference maker in this matchup with Washington. Because, again, they've played the fewest true road games in Division I women's basketball this year. Odd, just the way the schedule worked out. And the Huskies are looking to do something that they have not done since 2017, and that's win a road game against a ranked opponent. Ducks are that ranked opponent. Oregon leads the all-time series with the Huskies 54-51, the first meeting coming in 74-75, and Oregon has won the last 9 games in the series, including 7 of those 9 by 10 or more points and 4 games by at least 15 points. The Ducks have dominated this rivalry series of late, but it's a new head coach for Washington. It's probably a little bit more of a talented roster than it has been in years past. I think this is a good test for the Ducks, a game that on paper they should win, but it's a rivalry game. and it's coming your way tonight at 7 o'clock. Terry Johns and Bev Smith have a 6:30 pregame show for the Ducks and the Dogs at Matthew Knight Arena tonight, and it's also televised on Pac-12 Oregon. We'll go through some more of the notes for you. I want to get a quick timeout. We're going to come back and hear from Kelly Graves as well. I know everybody also wants to know Grace Van Sluten. Let's ask Coach Graves next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey Duck fans, we're all about protecting our home turf here in Eugene. You should do the same for your home with Country Financial Insurance. Most home insurance doesn't account for inflation, but with Country Financial, yours can. If something happens to your home, make sure you can rebuild the same house in the same place. Call a local representative or 866-COUNTRY and get a solid defense for your home. Home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Casualty Insurance Company, or Country Preferred Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois. Property must meet age and condition requirements, which vary by state.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union, onpointcu.com. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Opportunity.
Your daily dose of Oregon athletics. This is Duck Insider from Learfield.
Ready for our little forest adventure?
Yes! So much waiting for me. Yeah, I wanna go outside. I wanna be.
We're here.
Whoa, that was fast.
There's a forest closer than you think. Find a park or forest near you and music inspired by nature at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by USDA Forest Service and the Ad Council.
You're not too cool for me. And in return, I reciprocate that sentiment. I'll never be too cool for you. I was a man with a plan, but now I'm a dad with a decree, and you can't take that from me. Please let it be noted that I told my job they can dock my pay. Right now, it's just too important to take you to school every day. I want to be legendary for you. I want you to puff out your chest when you go to school, the same way I do. I walk taller because of you, because I found everything to live for.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, it's Duck Insider presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Women's basketball tonight, men's basketball tomorrow, women's basketball on Sunday. Also this weekend, track and field. You're going to see some updates from the Cougar Classic in Spokane this morning. Ducks are off to a really, really good start, actually, this morning in Spokane. You can watch on Runner Space. It began at 11 a.m. Pacific time. The high jump for the Ducks is where things started, but overall, off to a good start this morning in that Cougar Classic. And then Mekhi Williams and Jaden Mays headline the sprint entries in Spokane. Williams won the 2021 NCAA title at 60 meters and is the school record holder. The Ducks have a few other headliners in the Cougar Classic today. Then the Washginton preview up in Seattle tomorrow for Oregon track and field as indoor season is officially upon us. So some more updates and things to come from Oregon track and field as they were competing this morning and rounding out some of the competition here as we're live in the 1 o'clock hour. We'll tell you about it a little bit more coming up. Continuing to preview Oregon and Washington. I talked about that matchup history a little bit, how the Ducks have been really good of late. Well, particularly in Eugene, Oregon holds a 32-17 series advantage in Eugene and have won the last four, I should say, at home. They out-rebounded Washington in each of the four games. I bring that up because Washington's rebounding margin this year is staggering. They're actually plus 10.9. Plus 10.9 in rebounding margin, second best in the conference. Now, that, though, is really their only offensive stat that jumps off the page. In fact, they're 12th in scoring, 10th in field goal percentage, 12th in three-point field goal percentage, 11th in free throw percentage, and 11th in assists per game, and they're 10th in turnover margin. All those numbers tell you offense is not where Washington's going to make its hay. They're going to have to defend the Ducks. And that's going to be tough considering that Oregon has been, well, much better offensively. They're third in the league in points per game, third in field goal percentage. They're the best team in the conference in three-point shooting, and they're 8-0, the Ducks are, when they shoot at least 40% from the three-point line. They're ninth in free throw percentage, second in assist, third in rebounding margin at plus 10.1. Isn't that interesting? So Washington plus 10.9, second in the league. Ducks plus 10.1, third in the league, and the Ducks are sixth in turnover margin. So just some of your rankings to give you some context here. The Ducks have the advantage offensively. Rebounding may be the only thing that Washington has a slight edge, but even then the rankings would tell you that it's a wash, and the statistics would tell you that it's a wash. I think this game is probably going to be won with defense here coming up tonight. Does Kelly Graves agree? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Coach Graves earlier this week previewing the matchup with the Dogs. 7 o'clock tonight. Here's Kelly Graves.
All right, who's up? Good to see. Looks like Grace out there moving around well. There's a little bit of concern after Sunday, but seems like everything's
Grace did
positive.
not practice today. She is still a question mark for the weekend. She was here though, and feels better. But yeah, she's still wearing a boot, and we'll see. We're hopeful. We're hopeful. By Friday.
Right foot or both feet or?
Well, she works her butt off and spends as much time on the ground after loose balls and stuff that I think everything's kind of beat up a little bit. But I'm not exactly sure. That's a great question. I guess I don't pay attention to which foot, but one of them.
Because they both.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know. She's just, we got to survive here the next little bit until she can get, fully healthy. But Elise was cleared and had a great practice today. Kennedy Basham was cleared fully. She had a great practice, and we had Sammy here for the first time. So, we were 10 players strong.
You talked the other day about you had that great quote about Grace and comparing her to Larry Bird and how tough she plays. Can you expand on that a little bit and just kind of what that means and how that energizes the team?
Yeah, well, I'm not saying she's a Larry Bird type player. It's just she works so hard. Larry Bird was my favorite player growing up. And, he could have played an extra 5 years if he would have just not played so damn hard day in and day out, practice by practice and game by game. And that's how Grace is. She's exhausts all of her energy she has on any given day. So by the end of the day, she's given it all. And you just love players like that. But, with that sometimes comes a price. And so we just hope that she, can remain healthy. But yeah, she just worked. That was the comparison.
Is that unique for freshmen to come in?
Absolutely. Sure, absolutely. And that's what I think sets her apart from other freshmen anywhere across the country. And that's why she's such an elite player already.
If she either can't go or is limited more than usual, is that just who gets the opportunity? Is that Taya first, just because of size and position?
Yeah, probably Taya. And they don't. Washington doesn't have a true center that they start, so that I think we'd be fine with that matchup. We actually tried Philly and Kennedy together today in a little bit of zone. That's a long zone. So, they haven't played together at all in practice even. So we'll try a bunch of different things. But, yeah, I think we would go with Taya. That would be the natural fit.
Early impressions of just having Sammy around and kind of I know she's not playing, but just her presence and how that maybe impacts the kind of feel of the team.
Love it, yeah. And, she's got a great opportunity to jump in and with no pressure. She gets to play every day with the fellas. And then I know she's going to live in the weight room. I think our strength coach, KJ, has, already set up a schedule, kind of a separate schedule for her. So she's going to do some additional work down there. It's a great opportunity, really, to just kind of jump in with no pressure for her.
How do you, at this point in the season, Kelly, kind of at the midpoint-ish and where things stand at this point, do you want them to approach it as the cliche one at a time, or do you want them to look at it in clusters where, like, you guys really need these next 4 games? Because the following 4, there's 3 pretty big games, but that's down the road. But to make those mean what they need to mean, you really need these next 4 games.
Yeah, well, coach speak, we're only worried about Washington. I could not tell you. I know we have Oregon State after this. I couldn't tell you who and where we go after, this next 2 weekends. So we have to approach it that way. We're this close, you guys. Man, we're just this close. We're 12-4. We've had a nice year. A couple of those games that we lost against really good teams, we could have won. We could be 14-2, and we'd have a whole different kind of view of where we're at. So we just got to clean up those little things so that we can win those winnable games down the stretch. That game in Arizona, it makes me sick to have to watch that game film. And we watched as a team, and I think the team was really disappointed in just a play here and a play there, especially on some loose balls and blockouts and just things that are correctable. So I think that's why we had such a great day of practice. I think they're recommitted.
I factored a couple of those losses too, where some kids who hadn't hit threes for the opposition hit threes against you guys. How do you balance when that happens, sort of commitment to your scout and your defensive game plan with, maybe a kid's having a night that we hadn't really accounted for?
We've had a couple of those, I think Kiki Rice came into the game having made, I think, 1 3, and then she hit a few, and then Shayna Pellington had made 1 3 on the year. She hits a couple. We have to adjust. I mean, the game plan, the analytics would tell you that we made the right decision, but, and then when they are hitting a couple, you got to adjust. But I think Arizona was averaging 3 or 4 made threes, and they go 10 of 20. Okay, but that's on us. Madison Connor, the ones we're trying to take away, though, are the ones that have hurt us. And the Carolina game, that shooter at the end. We've got to do a better job. The coaches, the players, and just focus for 40 minutes, every possession.
You said you watched that Arizona game, and despite it making you sick, what were the biggest takeaways from that you really want to be able to implement and change moving forward?
That we've got to really want it. And I think having practice guys for the first time in a month, we actually had a chance to compete today. See, normally we don't have a deep bench, right? We don't have enough players to go 5-on-5. So I've got to have a coach or a manager or something in there. And you just can't simulate the kind of pressure that you're going to get from teams like Arizona and UCLA. So just having the guys here back, I think will really help us kind of prepare ourselves for those games. But in the end, man, we just got to want it, I think, just a little bit more. And they the other day, you could tell there was one time when we had 4 ducks in the middle on the inside of one Shayna Pellington, and she just went in and grabbed the ball. I think we were all kind of waiting for the other to take it. Well, she just went and took it, hit Kate Reese, boom, 2-point game.
Do you think any of that has to do with playing on the road versus at home when you talk about wanting it? Does any of that have to do with the energy?
No. I think the great teams can play well on the road. In fact, they sometimes prefer it. It's fun to kind of quiet the crowd and things like that. We've got that in us. We just didn't show it in that game.
How much do you, in recreating those things, Kelly, because again, the things you can control, is it game IQ stuff where when we talked about experience after the game about, like, for instance, all right, if Connor's that way, you got a lot of fouls to give. Is it fouling a player like that if there are fouls to give? Is it situational awareness and not stepping out of bounds in certain moments? Is it not certain turnovers? And how to recreate that where you might have a couple of games coming up where those moments may not present themselves, but then again, 4 weeks from now when they do, how do you know you're ready when it comes up again?
Well, we'll see when we play the game. Hopefully that's called experience. It's called learning from your mistakes, and that's a couple of those situations have happened a few times in critical moments, and you just, you just can't do it, right? I think it goes back to that focus and the consistency that I think we've talked about. We show flashes of brilliance, great basketball. We played some really good basketball down there in Arizona. We just didn't finish it. And so we've got to find a way to make those plays when they really matter. So it just, I'll let you know the next time we have one of those games. Did we learn from the past? Remember when we kind of screwed up against Carolina late? 2 nights later against Michigan State, in the same exact situation, we were the ones that made the play. So I'm thinking to myself, all right, we're learning. And now we've taken another step back. We just got to keep progressing. And I know we have it in us. And one of these days, we're going to get one of those highly ranked teams. Because I think we belong up there. I truly do.
What's the early scout on the Huskies?
Much better. I mean, they've had a rough last few years. No, they're a lot better. They've got different weapons. They shoot the ball pretty well. They're physical. That's the thing. They get out and guard you, and they're real physical. What do we got working on back? Look at that Tihina. All right. Good rhythm. And, they've always spread out. They run the Princeton stuff, and they cut hard. And I just think and they've got a couple playmakers. Daniels, the transfer from Cal, is a really good player. Van Dyke's in her, 9th year. Seems like she's been there forever and is a really good player. And then Schwartz, is just a tough kid, great cutter, shooting the ball really well. And Jada Noble has really become a pretty good shooter. So they actually have some weapons. It's a good group. Okay.
Obviously, you guys don't pay too much attention to the rankings, obviously, especially at this point in the season. But like you mentioned, those losses came against really good teams. What does that say about this team right now as you guys are currently constructed?
That we've got to win those games, that we're close. And we just got to find a way to pull those out. So I don't really pay much attention to the rankings. We still are in there, which means, okay, we're winning enough to stay there. But at the same time, I'm not into that kind of thing. Let's win some of those games, right? And I think we will. I'm really excited about my team. I'm leaving today. I'm talking to you guys right now. Really excited about the practice we had, the energy that we played with, kind of the recommitment to, hey, we're going to go out and play well. So, we'll see how that works on Friday. What is it, Mike Tyson quote? You might have a game plan until you get hit the first time.
I mean, you just can't script this stuff with Coach Graves. Yeah, we need to trim that ending off and keep it forever. Just, what's that, Mike Tyson? I need that forever, Scott, if you could. Thanks. Anytime I just don't know what to say, I'll just be like, Coach Graves, help me out. I did want to go back, though, something that he said earlier in the interview, because I actually got asked this by a couple people this week. So the women's team, similar to the men's team, they'll have practice players, right? And so for women's basketball, a lot of times when Coach Graves is referring to the guys, he's referring to the practice players that practice with the women's team, and they sort of are like the scout team. Think of it that way. They're like the scout team. And so during the holiday break, a lot of those students weren't here. Now they're back, and it gives Oregon a just deeper bench because the Ducks don't have the deepest roster. So being able to have some practice players that give you a true 5-on-5, that's what Coach Graves is referring to, makes a big difference. So I heard someone ask earlier, well, wait, the guys have been playing too. Does the men's team play against the women's team? No, it's that the practice players for the women are back in town. So that's what he was referring to. And I got to tell you, I do think that it makes a huge difference. One of my best friends in college actually was one of the women's basketball practice players, and it's a tremendous experience, and it gives such an awesome scout to the women's program. So in any case, that's what he was referring to. When we come back, Endyia Rogers, a couple notes on her and just how well she's been playing. In a lot of ways, leading this Oregon women's team. And maybe the biggest jump for her in her career has been the three-point shooting. Back after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear winter, Toyota's got 20 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, and that's more than any other auto brand. So you bring the action, and we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer's websites as of 11/21/22.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, our all-inclusive event pricing allows us to take care of all of the details while you enjoy your event. Our wedding garden, expansive grounds, ballroom, and meeting rooms can accommodate any size event and come complete with full catering and service staff. From weddings to business and social events, Shadow Hills offers the benefits of a resort atmosphere and the peace of a country setting just minutes from downtown Eugene. For more details, call us today or go to shadowhillsevents.com.
Dear winter, Toyota's got 20 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, and that's more than any other auto brand. So you bring the action, and we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer's websites as of 11/21/22.
You're listening to Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hi,
I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear. Call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, getting ready for women's basketball tonight on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. So Endyia Rogers, I feel like the jump for her and really the entire Oregon women's team in three-point shooting has been significant this year. She's averaging 15.5 points per game, about 4 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 1.5 steals per game, playing 30 minutes. In the last game against Arizona, she had 17 points. Fourth straight game with at least 17 points, and actually she's averaging over 18 a game in the last 4. She's second on the team. Our helmet fell. How'd that even happen? In any case, she's second on the team in points per game, and she has scored in double figures in 13 of 16 games this season. She's a 2-time All-Pac-12 selection, played her first 2 seasons, of course, at USC, but she's one of the best players in the Pac-12 this year. And I think that outside shot, it's really improved, and it's given teams another reason to be thinking about her in the scouting report, because she's not just going to drive by you and create for her teammates in addition to scoring. She's also, honestly, going to hit some shots from outside. And I think it's been a big benefit, not just to her game, but to the Ducks as a whole, and I would expect that to continue. Endyia Rogers met with the media this week previewing the matchup between the Ducks and the Dogs tonight at 7 o'clock at Matthew Knight Arena.
You showed it at times at the end of last season, particularly in the tournament game. And you've done it again this season, in particular on this past game. It's not the outcome you want, but in fourth quarters and last 5 minutes, there is no question who's getting the ball, and there's no question the tenacity in which you play. So mentally, how do you approach that differently? Because it comes across that you are just playing with a different swagger, for lack of a better word, in the last 5 minutes of some close games.
I just think the last 5 minutes is just whatever it takes. It's a lot more urgency because you have to be alert. Like the little mistakes that we make in the beginning of the game, we have to somehow make up for. So yeah, it's just a bit of urgency, and it's just like, I don't care. Like if it like whatever happens is gonna happen.
And going back and looking at the Arizona game in those last couple of minutes in totality, just what are your takeaways? What are some of the things that, we could have those plays back, not just you personally, but just as a team? What are some of those plays that you guys look back on and go, if we can correct those 1 or 2 things, we're on the winning side?
Yeah, getting the shooters, defensive, grabbing rebounds. It was a lot, 50-50 balls. I know I personally fouled a shooter, and she got up there and made 3 free throws, which kind of hurt. But, yeah, just little things like fouls, 50-50 balls, execution on offense, turnovers. Yeah, like those. I know at the beginning of the game I had like 2 turnovers in transition when I know at least one of those I probably should have took it a little further and maybe shot or made a better decision, but yeah.
What are your thoughts on Grace and what she's been able to do this season?
Grace is amazing for us. She gives us a post presence inside as well as Philly. Offensively, she's hard to stop, so she gives us another threat offensively, and she can affect the shot with her defense and long arms. So.
Did you kind of get a sense that she could have a season like this when she first showed up? I mean, was she showing those types of skills right away?
She was, but you never know what you're going to get. When I was a freshman, it was hard. And so there's a lot of freshmen, that are like top 10 McDonald's All-Americans. But when I saw her, I was like, yeah, she's a legit top 10.
Kelly was just saying this was one of the better practices you guys have had. What was key in kind of, I guess, responding from a tough game on Sunday, coming back and putting a lot out there today?
The bounce back urgency. We are very aware that we have to fix a lot of things in order to beat better teams, and we want to be at the top of the top. We compete with the best of the best, so why not be at the top of the best of the best?
Well said by Endyia Rogers. Well said. She and the Ducks taking on Washington tonight. Oregon looking for a win in their rivalry matchup. It would be a double-digit winning streak should the Ducks win tonight. They've won the last 9 against the Huskies. Terry Johns and Bev Smith with a 6:30 pregame show tonight from Matthew Knight Arena. And when we come back on Duck Insider, we're going to talk men's basketball. It's going to be a bounce back tomorrow. I'm manifesting on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union, onpointcu.com. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Opportunity.
Hey Duck fans, we're all about protecting our home turf here in Eugene. You should do the same for your home with Country Financial Insurance. Most home insurance doesn't account for inflation, but with Country Financial, yours can. If something happens to your home, make sure you can rebuild the same house in the same place. Call a local representative or 866-COUNTRY and get a solid defense for your home. Home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Casualty Insurance Company, or Country Preferred Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois. Property must meet age and condition requirements, which vary by state.
This is Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
To your children's eyes to see the true magic of a forest. It's a storybook world for them. You look and see a tree. They see the wrinkled face of a wizard with arms outstretched to the sky. They see treasure in pebbles. They see a windy path that could lead to adventure. And they see you, their fearless guide through this fascinating world.
Find a forest near you and start exploring at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, Duck Insider presented by On Point Community Credit Union. This week's Women's Sports Schedule Spotlight, always brought to you by our friends at Toyota. Let's go places. Shining bright on Oregon women's basketball this weekend. 7 o'clock on Friday, and then noon on Sunday against Washington State. Both televised on Pac-12 Oregon, and of course, Terry Johns and Bev Smith with a pregame show beginning half an hour before tip-off for every game this season on the Oregon Sports Network. That's women's basketball. Big weekend for both men's and women's basketball. The men didn't go well last night. A tough game from the jump. Shots fell for Arizona State. They did not fall for the Ducks. And as Coach Altman said when he sat down with me on the postgame show, unfortunately, the Ducks kind of gave into that. And he said that that's not what good programs do. There was going to be some changes over the next 36 hours. Well, now 26 hours before tip-off against Arizona. A 3 o'clock tip, 2:30 pregame with me here on the Oregon Sports Network. But it was just a rough night overall. We know that. There's no way to describe it any different when it's a 90-73 win for Arizona State. And maybe the shooting percentages say it all. 52% compared to 42%. 45% compared to 35% from three. You know the irony of this? The worst free throw shooting team in the league, the Ducks. ended up going 15 of 17 at the free throw line, and they shot 88%. It was their best night of the season at the free throw line. Stars are just not aligning for this team right now. So something's got to change. What that is, well, I'm certainly not smart enough to figure that out. But Dana Altman and his staff will. Big matchup with Arizona on the horizon. What it means for the postseason implications, well, it's significant. And we'll talk about it after we hear from Coach Altman, because it was a season high in points allowed. The Ducks are 0-4 this year when they allow 70-plus points. The defense has been key. 70's been that magic number for the Ducks. It's their season worst in field goal percentage defense, first time allowing an opponent over 50% from the field this season. So look, I can say all that. Rough night. Dana Altman can talk about it better than I can. He met with the media after the game, and he said there's going to be some shifts heading into this matchup with Arizona tomorrow.
We got no excuses with 11 guys back for that to be the result and the effort, particularly in the first half. How did your team, how did this get to this point that quickly?
I don't know. It was a really bad start to the game. They got whatever they wanted, their confidence. They haven't shot the ball that well, but when you give somebody good looks early and they get it rolling, and they did. We didn't have a deflection for the first 9 minutes of the game, and we're down quickly. We're down 13 at that time. So just our inactivity, got beat on the boards. We got beat in every facet of the game. And so really disappointed, obviously. I know our fans are. They should be. That is not what you expect from our ball team and our program. But very concerning.
Outside of Will and Dante, where is the pride, particularly when you're talking about deflections or closing out on threes when a team makes 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 threes and a half? Where is the closing out to just knock someone down, show that there's some tenacity on that side of the floor?
Well, I'm not sure that's the answer, but being a lot more physical, in screens with our hand activity. Like I said, our deflections, I think we had 4 the first half. That's just our activity. And that was everybody, We didn't contest shots inside. We obviously didn't contest shots on the perimeter to start the game. We did a little better as the game went on, but as I said, they got off to such a good start. They got into a rhythm. I'm not sure they've scored 90 all year, but, we allowed that to happen.
Second time in 8 days, this type of performance. Do you go back and shake things up?
Oh, we're going to. Yeah, no, we got to try some different things. We can't keep doing the same thing. We stayed with the same lineup and going to give, some guys some chance. I thought Nate, gave us some activity. He had a bad turnover, but he did some good things. Khalil, wasn't as active as I would have liked to seen him, but I thought Nate did some good things. Luke did a few good things in the minutes with the 1-3-1 that we needed. So, no, we're going to have to evaluate a lot of things here, but our activity definitely has got to improve.
Danny, you were able to bounce back last weekend from the Colorado game to the Utah game. Are you confident that this team can do that again this week with Arizona coming up Saturday?
Well, our challenge is going to be a lot stiffer. I'm not sure what Arizona's ranked, but they're in the top 10 or so. So they're a good basketball team. They beat this team that just beat us bad. So no, we're going to have to really compete. And the psyche, wasn't good there in the locker room. They're disappointed, and a couple of guys are frustrated that have done a little bit more. Like I said, Will led us in deflections. He didn't have a great game, but he hit a few shots and, got our energy level. But, he sure didn't get much help, offensively or defensively.
From a chemistry standpoint, as you're getting guys back healthy, is there a sense that everybody's kind of on the same page now?
Oh, not really. We don't have a rotation, and you know, it's not where you want to be, you know, obviously on mid-January, you know, with guys just coming back. But, you know, I thought, again, Jermaine played okay. Key was a little rusty early, but then came along. So, but again, we're going to have to change things up and really make some guys, you know, more accountable for their minutes.
You talked about the psyche in the locker room. Obviously, this isn't the first time that you've coached an Oregon team that seemed like they might be going in the wrong direction. Do you feel like that frustration and that disappointment that you felt in that locker room right now is the, you know, feeling that they need to have to change this and flip it all around?
Well, there's no magic wand. You know, it's not like I'm going to come up with something new. You know, those guys, you know, when we battled back, it was because the group in that locker room got together and decided to compete. You know, I can yell and scream. I'm not going to do any good unless those guys make an effort as a group to compete. And so, done this a long time. I've seen teams go up and down, but it's that group in the locker room. I mean, I'm not playing. Our coaches didn't do anything different. We prepared for this game just like we did every other game. The energy was good from our coaching staff. The energy was good from our team. But, you know, we just didn't compete. And so you don't get deflections. You get out rebounded by 8 every facet of the game. You know, we were behind right from the start. So that's got to come from within the locker room. You know, we're going to shake some things up, give some guys some opportunities, and cut the minutes of some guys that, you know, we've been given a lot of opportunities to. And I don't know if that'll work. I'm not saying if I thought they were better going into the game, I'd have played them. But can't keep doing the same thing. And so we're going to change things up.
You've seen guys like EJ or Dylan or Peyton really just will teams to make turnarounds like this. Do you feel like that type of personality is on this team?
Well, Will's trying, you know, but you know, like I said, you're asking me to figure out what's in their ticker and what's in their gut. All right, and you know, I'm going to bark at them. I'm going to encourage them. I'm going to try to get them together. But that's got to come from them, you know. And every time we have had an opportunity to turn around, it's because the guys in the locker room did it. I'm going to be as consistent and prepare for the next game just like would every other game. My job is to try to get them ready, and I obviously have not done that. So I've got to look at myself. Every group's different. But we thought we made a turn there at Utah, and we obviously reverted back to, you know, we've lost 4 games at home. I'm not sure, you know, that's not usual for us. So, and to be flat like that, you know, we did compete against Houston. I shouldn't say that, but we've had some games where we've just been flat.
Nate gave more in the second half, Dan, but the first half, is there any game you can imagine where Khalil and Nate can combine for no points and 1 rebound in a half and you guys can win?
No. I think they only played 8 minutes or less than that, but you know, we've got to play a lot better. There's a lot of scenarios, but I thought Nate did play hard the second half. You know, Khalil is, if he hits a shot, you know, he's in pretty good shape, but he goes 1 for 5. And so we're going to need the whole team. You know, we've got some depth. If I had to answer James, you know, obviously would go that way. But we'll be up all night trying to figure it out as a coaching staff, and we'll practice tomorrow. And at 3:00 on Saturday, we need to see a different team.
Last question. What did you see from Keyshawn in his first game back, and how many more minutes can he start to give you on Saturday?
Well, we thought 15 would be the max today, but with the game going like it did, but he wanted to get back in there late. But no, his 12 minutes, he did some good things second half. First half, he was a little out of sorts, but got his legs under him a little bit the second half, I thought.
Was good to see Keyshawn Barthelemy back. That could be an X factor for the Ducks moving forward. And just like Jermaine Couisnard was an X factor last weekend, the Ducks are going to need some more X factors here against Arizona. No doubt about it. Arizona's really good. All of the metrics tell you that they might be the best offensive team, not just in the conference, but maybe in the country. They're that good. Have a lot of different players that can score in a lot of different ways. But they lost the game to Washington State. You know where Washington State's at in the standings? Behind the Ducks. They're 8-10 overall. And that was at McHale. It can be done. But was that at McHale? Actually, I take that back. Was it at McHale? They lost, or did they lose in Pullman? It was at McHale, I think. Hang on. Double checking. Hold, please. Fill time, Ryan. You got this. It was at McHale. It was at McHale. Okay, I'm not crazy. All right, just making sure. But yeah, anyway, the point is that Washington State got them. I think Oregon's better than Washington State. Certainly have more talent than Washington State. But the numbers, I was looking at the metrics this morning, and yeah, don't get me wrong, they're very good. How do you beat them? We're going to talk about that when we come back. Keep it here. It's Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey, Duck fans! The official 2022 Oregon football trading cards are now available exclusively at your local Oregon Jackson's food stores. The cards feature over 100 of your favorite Duck football student athletes from the 2022 season. Each pack contains 14 cards, and 1 out of every 10 packs will contain a special edition signed card, so be sure to collect them all to complete your set. Visit Jacksons.com for store locations.
Jacksons. Let's go.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, our all-inclusive event pricing allows us to take care of all of the details while you enjoy your event. Our wedding garden, expansive grounds, ballroom, and meeting rooms can accommodate any size event and come complete with full catering and service staff. From weddings to business and social events, Shadow Hills offers the benefits of a resort atmosphere and the peace of a country setting just minutes from downtown Eugene. For more details, call us today or go to shadowhillsevents.com.
More Duck Insider coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
This is an important message from the Mine Safety and Health Administration. Mining fatalities, accidents, and injuries are preventable. Taking a minute to approach your task safely can protect you and your fellow miners from injury and death. Staying alert and focused can keep you safe. Do it safe. Do it right. Whether buckling a seatbelt or securing equipment, these quick safety measures can prevent injuries and fatalities. Take time. Save lives. For more resources, visit MSHA.gov.
Farming is dangerous. There's dangers all around us.
We go through safety training and try and do these things to make sure accidents don't happen.
You don't want to hit a gas pipe because that's your life. The other part of it is if you hit certain things, you're liable for it.
Farm Safe 811 starts with you. Always call 811 and wait for any underground lines to be marked.
Always keep safety in the back of your mind. Just stay humble.
For more information, go to farmsafe811.org.
Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack in the Country Financial Studio. Women's basketball tonight, and we've got men's basketball this weekend. Going to need a big performance from the Ducks. By the way, I heard from Kelly Graves and Dana Altman today. Brought to you by the Willamette Valley Cancer Institute and Research Center. Fight like a duck with exceptional cancer care close to home. For men's basketball, these are big games, so here's why. UCLA 6-0 in the conference. Arizona State now 5-1. Utah 5-2. Arizona 4-2. Again, they've got losses to Utah and to Washington State. Oregon just beat Utah. It can be done. USC's 4-2. Oregon's 3-3. Isn't that weird, though, that just says so much about how seasons can be impacted in different ways? both the men and the women's teams are 6th place in the league. And how drastically different does it feel? Because the women are number 10 in the net, and the men aren't. Colorado, 3-4. Washington State, 3-4. Then Cal's 2-4. Washington, 2-5. Oregon State, 1-5. And Stanford, don't look now, 0-6. Weird. You do not see Stanford being 0-6. I didn't see that coming this year. They're 5-11 overall. Cal 3-14, the two worst teams in the league. That's the upcoming road trip for the Ducks. We'll talk about that more next week. But for sure, this is a big opportunity for the Ducks. Now, Oregon fell from 65 in the net to 76 in the net. 76 just isn't going to get it done. However, the Ducks were at one point 82 in the net. And they jumped up. It can be done. It can be done. But the margin for error, talking about postseason, it's tough now. Arizona actually dropped a couple spots in the net rankings based on the results from this week and last night. They're number 11 in the net right now. St. Mary's actually moved up above them after picking up a victory. UCLA is the top Pac-12 team in the net at number 7. But Arizona being number 11, so you can do the math. You can figure it out. How big of a deal would it be for Oregon to knock off Arizona at 3 o'clock on ESPN tomorrow? 2:30 pregame show here on the Oregon Sports Network. It's going to take a few things. One, great defense. I was going to say good defense, but really great defense. Washington State was able to keep that a lower scoring game against Arizona. Really, really good offensively. Ducks are going to have to out-rebound them, I think, too. Can't give that team extra opportunities. And I know Coach Altman keeps saying this. Got to hit some shots. They're going to go in eventually, right? Ducks had some good looks against Arizona State. Didn't fall. Now against Utah, Ducks were able to bounce back after losing Colorado. Khalil Ware hit a couple threes early. Got the energy up. I think you're going to know a lot about this Oregon team in the first 4 or 5 minutes of the game. If they're on it, energy's there, crowd gets into it, I like Oregon's chances. This is the game you get up for because that margin for error is really, really thin. It is a stripe out. Odd sections in yellow. Even sections in green. Pit crew, wear those yellow shirts. It's going to look cool. Green and yellow stripe out. More details, GoDucks.com. 3 o'clock on ESPN. Women in action tonight, track and field. Full recap of this morning's action, GoDucks.com. They're also competing tomorrow as well. Happy Friday the 13th.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer: the Drug Facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose.